Administering an IV infusion is a little bit different to administering normal medicines, and you'll probably find that you won't be able to quick chart these. So when you're in the administration tab of your patient, you'll see there's regular meds, PRN. Now we've got something in infusions. So if we click infusions, it tells you that there's 2 medicines that are due. Now you'll see here that they're different. I've got an intermittent infusion and a continuous infusion. So we'll start with the intermittent infusion, but regardless of which type of infusion, you've got to remember that we've got to tell the system we've put a bag up, and then we've also got to tell the system later when we've taken a bag down. So here's my amoxicillin that's due now. I can see that that's today, there's a green box around it. So if I click on that, now this is an extra tab that you won't have seen previously. This is ingredients. So the way that the infusions are built on the system now, not only does it tell you the medication, it also tells you the infusion bag that you'll need to use alongside it. So it's quite useful. So it's telling you that you've got your amoxicillin 500 milligrams and you're going to put it in 100 mils of sodium chloride, 0.9%. And here in your ingredients tab, it's listing them for you. So I need to get 1 500 milligram vial of amoxicillin and 1 bag that's 100 mils of sodium chloride. There's a space here for batch number and expiry date as well, so you can actually record that information on here as well. Okay, if I move over into the administration tab, so as before, I can see this is what is due. It's just a brief summary of what the prescription is for, and I can see that it's set to 100 mils per hour. So I'm going to be infusing this bag over 1 hour, and this is all predetermined by the prescriber. If you're going to administer this medication, you'd click chart dose, and what you'll notice here is it tells you the start infusion, and there's a little box. So by signing chart dose, you're actually signing that you've put the bag up and it's actually running with the patient. As it's an IV medication, you also need a witness. So I'm going to witness. But in most cases, you would have a second person checking you IV, and that is our standard operating procedure. That's what we would expect. There are occasions where it's an emergency, you don't have a witness, and you have to override that functionality. If you do choose to do that, which I'm going to have to do now because I'm on my own, if you do choose to do that, it is audited in the background. We would not expect you to do that unless it's an exceptional circumstance. Anyway, I've signed for my amoxicillin now. And now, if you look along the top here, as well as you've got 2 infusions, because that's the infusions that are running, you've also got another thing, a little 1 next door to infusion change. If we click this a minute, at the moment it's telling me I've got amoxicillin 500 milligrams in 100 mils and that it's active, and that's the rate it's running at. If you click this drop down arrow here, it then tells you you could change the rate of infusion if necessary, or you could choose to end the infusion. So at the moment, if I clicked that now, I've only just got it running, so actually it would record on the system that this patient's only had a couple of milligrams of dose. So what I really should be doing is logging back in an hour once the infusion is complete, and then acknowledging on the system that the infusion is finished. And this is where you would go to do that. You would click Action, End Infusion. Okay, so in summary, with infusions, you need to tell the system you've administered something, you've put the chart, you've charted that you've put the bag up, and then you need to tell it again that you've taken it down. The other type of infusion is a continuous infusion, and the example we have here is a GTN infusion. So this is a little bit different. We're still on the infusion section of your administration tab, and we click on the GTN. You'll see with this particular medicine you've only got 1 ingredient because of course it comes pre-diluted in the vial, so it doesn't need you to put it in an infusion bag, but that would be listed if it was here. And again, there's room for batch number and expiry. If we go to administration, you can see it's a continuous IV infusion. The initial infusion time is estimated to be over 33 hours. So if you're administering it at 1.5 mils an hour, and you've got 50 mils in there, so that's how it's worked that out. Now, so it's currently due. If I press chart dose, I am going to sign to say that I'm administering the 1.5 mils an hour, and I'm signing to say I've put the infusion up and it's running. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to have to override my witness again, but as I said, only do that in an emergency. Okay, now you can see that there's actually a number 2 next door to infusion change. When we click on that, you can see there's the information about the amoxicillin we've got running, and now we've got GTN running as well. Now, if for continuous infusions, you might very well need to titrate the rate of administration based on the patient's symptoms and the patient's need. So, with many of those prescriptions, the prescriber has actually specified a minimum and a maximum infusion time or infusion rate. So if you click on this arrow here, and you'll see at the moment there's user rate change. If you click on that, this brings up the prescription again, so we can go into administration. And you'll see here now it says user rate change, and there's a little box ticked there. If I want to reduce the rate of infusion because my patient's got a massive headache or something like that, so I can click this little calculator here, and then that actually tells you the minimum rate that the prescriber has allowed for, so 0.6 mils an hour, and the maximum rate 24 mils an hour. So I might decide that I'm going to drop the rate down to 1 mil. So in here I would make sure it just states 1, and then when I chart the dose again, it will actually tell me that it's 1 mil an hour. That it will actually confirm on the chart that that's the rate I'm now changing it to, because I'm signing to say that I've changed the rate. So each time you change the rate, it will do that. The system then recalculates when the bag will need changing, or in this case, the vial will need changing. So it predicts it's going to be on that date, on the 31st, at around 4 p.m.